and welcome back for another episode of Namaste, y'all, with Dr. Boyce. So this episode, I'm so excited to be joined by none other than my sister girlfriend, Vallon Jackson, who is a therapist, but let me be specific, a licensed clinical professional counselor.
Let's go with LPC.
Okay, LPC. You want to be specific, because if you say something like, a counselor, or you say a therapist, you want to be sure that you get the credentials, be credentialing in. Okay. Also, you also have a you did a certification for something with trauma as well. Okay, tell the people what it is.
It's just a trauma certification. So I work with people who do trauma or who have trauma. And so I wanted to be certified in that because I'm very intrigued by trauma and how it affects us and how we can heal from it.
Well, I would like to thank you for coming today. So for those of you that are new to my platform or don't know me personally, Val is what I would consider the Gail to my Oprah. So there are friends that you have that, may be inner circle. And then I feel like when it comes to Oprah and Gail, they probably share what I call the micro moments in life, right? So it might be one of those conversations that you wouldn't have with other people. It might seem like inconsequential, but I might call Val and we might have a conversation about I went to the store and got some chicken and then I got a potato because I was going to make a such and such kind of dish. You see what I'm saying? Whereas with another friend, you might just be like, I went to the store.
Right.
And so I think it's important to frame that up because it has been sharing the micro moments of my life with you and you with me that I think we're able to see our progression over the decades, because it's been decades now, that we're able to see how the growth happens. And so there's an IG post that talks about how big a flex it is to have friends that have known you over this long span of time and you've been able to see each other's growth and the trajectory because life be lifing, y'all. So
Amen.
This episode, we're going to dive into talking about the importance of emotional literacy. Now, some of you may be more familiar with the term emotional IQ. And so, of course, there's on any topic a lot of, things we could call it. But I like the term emotional literacy because it puts me in a mindset of when you think about reading, right? If somebody was illiterate in terms of their reading, we would think, okay, well, there's a path forward.
Right.
You could learn and we could go back, teach you phonics, get you, and then you could build up the strength and the skill to be able to read better.
With practice.
That's part with practice. But I think sometimes when we use the term IQ, we think about IQ as being fixed. Right. You got a low IQ.
Right.
It's just you got a low IQ or you got a high one. And so then I think when we take a fixed mindset to things like our emotional development and maturity, we feel like, well, I'm just a person that pop off. When somebody pisses me off, this is what I do and bang, pow, pow, pow. As opposed to understanding it to be something that we can actually learn and grow through. So let me start with giving the book reference for this episode is Claude Steiner's Emotional Literacy, Intelligence with a Heart. There's also another reference I would share, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. So each episode I like to ground down into a text that I refer people to read. But more importantly, I'm going to go back now and give a definition so that we can dive into the conversation because, I got certified, LPC up in here. And so we're going to get into a conversation because my experience is mine and I'm sharing my journey on my road to self-love. But also I love to have a professional because you work with so many other people.
Right.
And so you have a more nuanced perspective as a professional and then as a friend because you've been here for my journey too, girl. So, okay, emotional literacy. Let me give y'all a definition so we all on the same page. Y'all know I'm an educator. Okay, emotional literacy refers to the ability to recognize, understand, express, and manage emotions in oneself and in others. It involves not just identifying emotions, but also being able to communicate them effectively and respond empathetically to the emotions of others. This concept is a key component of emotional intelligence and contributes to personal well-being, healthy relationships, and effective problem solving. Okay, so that's the definition in general. And then we're going to break it down because there's 4 components of emotional literacy. Okay. The first one is emotional awareness. Can you recognize and name your own emotions and understand how they influence your thoughts and your actions? Can you start there? The second one is empathy. Can you understand and be sensitive to the emotions of others? The third is emotional expression, the ability to express the emotion appropriately in various situations. And then the fourth is emotional regulation. Now that you can express it, like, can you manage and respond to emotions in healthy and constructive ways? All right. So now that we got the definitions that we're functioning off of today, this episode was important because a big part of my work, one of the most challenging parts of my work in my healing, in my journey towards self-love, has been increasing my emotional literacy. And so I think I love the term, I already explained, like, because I view it as something I can get more literate, right? So there are ways in which I might be more emotionally literate. So some of the components I feel like we may be good at, let's say maybe one or two of them. Let's say for me, I feel like I have been good at being emotionally aware. That is being able to name how I feel in a moment. Can I add
something to that?
Go ahead.
Because in order to be emotionally aware, you also have to be able to drop into your body.
Yes. Okay. So when we talk about dropping into our bodies, let's just go. Okay. I gave the definitions. Okay. Yes. So let's just go. Yes. Okay. So when it comes to dropping into your body, in order to be aware of the emotion, what does that look like? I mean, we're all in our bodies. So you have to help us understand when we dropping into we already here, sis.
Well, sometimes we're not in our bodies.
Where we at?
So there is a thing that it's called detachment or dissociation, right? So let's say I'm triggered by something and it creates an emotion like anger. Right. But let's say the trigger had nothing to do with you. You just said the thing that triggered me. Right. So in that moment, I am no longer in my body. I am in the moment where that thing happened. So it took me back to the time and place of where the trigger happened for me. So now I cannot properly regulate my emotions because I'm not even present with you right now.
So I'm 10 is what you're telling me.
Yes.
I done got triggered in this moment, and now I'm back to 10-year-old Stephanie throwing a fit because something happened, or she was disappointed, or somebody left her, or like whatever was happening in that moment.
Yep. So if we think about it in the sense of, let's think of children, right? They don't know how to drop into their bodies, right? If something happens and it makes them angry, they're going to throw a tantrum. Right. So as adults, when we don't know how to connect our emotions with our bodies and drop back into our bodies when we're triggered, what do? We throw tantrums. Right. Yeah. Like if I'm acting out on the emotion, because emotions, yes, they tell us that we need something, but they also give us an urge at the same time. And depending on the emotion, the urge is not a positive thing. If it's anger, it's telling me to tear some stuff up. Right.
Tear it up.
That's like
tear it down.
Throwing a tantrum as an adult.
Yeah, knock it over. Just knock shit down.
Right. So I have to be aware that in this emotion, I need to make sure I'm in the present moment.
Okay. That makes sense. Because I remember reading Anita Phillips' The Garden Within, and there was another, Love and Awakening, I think, was another one where I started to understand my emotions as trying to communicate messages to me.
Yes.
Like my emotion is trying to tell me something.
Right.
Now, but when I'm a kid, you just told shut up.
Right.
If you was raised like, in certain kind of people, we was just, nobody was asking how you feel, but it was like, however you feeling, shut up, go sit down, come on, go to here, go there.
To be seen and not heard.
Seen and not heard. Ain't nobody worried about how you feeling about that.
Right.
Baby, go over there and somewhere and sit down, because we got grown folks problems. And nobody want to hear about that little old stuff you talking about. Right. So I feel like if we haven't learned, so this is a part of this curriculum on emotional literacy. If we have not seen modeled for us and we have not been taught a curriculum on like what it even means to be emotionally literate, then we just walk around in this world crashing and thrashing and smashing
and throwing tantrums.
And throwing tantrums. And hoping that the people around us will be able to endure, will navigate, will just make accommodations for us because this is how we are, this is who we are, and we just crash and thrash through life and hope that we can sustain relationships, sustain jobs, sustain growth, And I see people sometimes now that I am aware and I have this language where I can be like, oh, you are completely like emotionally illiterate. And myself too. Like in a moment, I can be more mindful now. So let's talk about this. So the first one is talking about emotional awareness. So you're saying to be aware, we need to drop down into our bodies.
Right.
So if I was somebody that says like, I don't even know what that means, how do I drop down into my body to become aware and even be able to name what emotions I'm feeling in a moment?
Ooh, one of the easiest things to do is breathe, right? A lot of times we take breathing for granted. And not like just I'm unconsciously breathing, right? Because I'm alive, but like breathing in a conscious way, being able to stop myself and take deep breaths and then blow them out. Because what that does is it gives your brain a moment to reconnect with the part of our brain that has reasoning, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give a little lesson, right, on the brain and how it works a little bit. Our emotions live in the same part of our brain that controls our survival, right?
Right.
The amygdala, which is the little almond-shaped part in the back of your head. So when the amygdala is on full throttle, the reasoning part is off, right? So it's like you flipped a switch.
Time to get active.
Right? So when one is closed, one is open.
Yeah, it's telling my brain it's time to get active.
Right. So in order for me to be able to connect with the emotion, drop back into my body, I need to be able to turn this piece back on.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So in order for me to do that, I can do things that kind of puts a wedge between the emotion, the thought, and the action, because sometimes it happens really fast.
Oh, yeah. We go up.
Right? So I can breathe, right? I can take a moment and be like, you know what, right now I'm really pissed off. I'm about to say something that I don't want to say. So let me breathe it out, even if I have to walk away, right? Sometimes we might need to walk away and breathe.
Because proximity is important. Getting away from whatever is causing you to have a reaction is important too. But breath work is such a big part of mindfulness practice.
Right.
There's a whole, there's breath work coaching and there's a whole thing. And at my last wellness retreat, I took a breath work course where we were even practicing different types of breath that you can do based on what's going on and what you're trying to decompress. Is it a stressful moment?
Right.
Is it are you feeling anger? Is anger coming up? That's a different type of breathing sequence that we can come down,
right?
Before you start cussing. So that makes sense. Okay, so taking time to breathe, distance ourselves from whatever is triggering us in the moment. Okay.
And if I go back to breathing, back in my intern days when I worked with little children, because I don't work with the babies no more. We called it belly breathing. Right. And one of the ways to show them how to belly breathe is to make sure this part of your stomach is coming out. Right. Because as adults, we learn more chest breathing. We do more chest breathing than we do belly breathing. Right.
Okay.
Because our chest is rising and falling instead of our stomach.
Right.
We want it to be in the diaphragm. We want it to be down here. Right. And one way to also do that, to practice it, is when you lay down. It's hard to chest breathe when you're laying down. Your stomach is going to be what's moving. Okay. And so when you're doing your mindfulness breathing, making sure that you're breathing down here, right? Because you can get more in down here. And that gives you more time to process what's happening. Am I triggered? Is it really the person who said this, or is it the other person from back there? And I'm taking it out on them because I was triggered in the moment. Right. So yes, being able to do that and drop into my body and understand where I'm feeling the emotion, right? Because our emotions are connected to our bodies. So if something stresses me out, it might make my stomach hurt. It might give me a pain in my chest. It might make my head hurt, right? It might cause my blood pressure to go up. And because studies have shown for a lot of women who have autoimmune disorders, a lot of it is connected to stress.
Oh, well, yeah, we could do a whole podcast series on chronic stress and the impact on the body and how much women. And I think another thing that's important about that part is that, I feel like as women, we have been kind of socialized almost to feel like negative emotions or feeling them or expressing them are some kind of way not ladylike.
Right.
And so we should want to, like, if anger is coming up or if like whatever is coming up, like we should want to figure out how to like pray it away. If you're like, you know, a Christian or a religious person, like there needs to be things that happen that make you go do away with them and suppress them, put them down, put them away, like they're the devil, they're evil. So when I started to reprogram and understand, no, my emotions are trying to tell me something.
Right.
And so the last book that I was reading, Calling in the One, she was talking about anger might be telling you, whoa, somebody's breached a boundary here. And that doesn't mean that I should just shut up and suck it down. No, it means first I do need to step back though, because I need to understand in this moment, is it because somebody's done something or am I being triggered by something? But if it has in fact been a boundary breach, like I need to step away, I need to become aware. But also now I need to determine the best way to communicate what my boundary is. Right. Instead of letting anger trigger me to like going off on somebody and getting active. Because the anger could either make me, if I'm not emotionally intelligent, go off and cuss you out. Well, hold on, what you ain't finna do is
And that didn't meet the need because emotions are telling us there's a need that needs to be met.
There is a need. And if we were to reframe, like, if they don't want me to go off, they don't piss me off then. Don't do this, don't do that, because that's life. It's going to always be something happening.
Can I say one of my pet peeves is when somebody is a person who maybe does that, right? Goes off. Or it could be like an older person in your family who's been the same for many a year, right? And when other people enable them by saying, well, you know, that's just how she is. Or, you know, that's just how he is. No, it's not.
They're a boundary breacher, and you should just take it because that's who they are.
Right, no, absolutely.
They have a low emotional IQ, so they're going to spew all over everybody, cuss them out, do whatever, and y'all should just have to deal with it because that's your family member.
Yeah, nope.
The devil is busy lying.
Well, see, and then I'm going to just touch on when you said because that's your family member, right? My brain tells me that everybody who is related to me is not my family.
Well...
So, you know, I can say that's my relative, right? Because I feel like family, yes, because family is so much deeper and stronger, you know, and I'm going to show you how to treat me by standing on the boundaries that I give you. And I would love to give an example of somebody in my family who always tries to cross my boundaries, you know, and every time I see her, I won't engage in that negativity that she brings. There's never a hello, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. It's never any of that. The first thing she says is something negative. Every time I see her, and I choose not to engage in that because I'm going to show you that you're not going to be able to treat me that way. And then you get upset when I don't respond or don't.
Can I say how commendable it is? Because when you tell me this, because I know who you're talking about, and when you tell me the stuff that person says, because I'm not as emotionally intelligent and literate as Valley, I'm just going to put this out here. I am less emotionally literate than Val is. That's why I call her. And typically if I call Val, it's because I already went up. I'm just calling to report what happened, okay? And to get the accountability that is going to come from our friendship when she says, now, did you get what you wanted?
Because you didn't.
Did you get what I didn't, but it felt good to say what needed to be said. And see, I'm on a journey. Right. I'm working on that. Yeah. So when you tell me what that person says, my first mind is, oh, hell no. Right. What did you say? I ain't said nothing. I didn't engage with her. I'd like to say, well, I know you didn't with your...
But it took a lot of practice, right? Ooh, like I had to learn all of these things. I had to, and the thing about it is once you start doing it, right? Once you become aware, once you're able to drop into your body, once you're able to do the breathing, once you're able to do these things, they happen just like that. Just like when you're not emotionally literate, the anger and then the acting out happens just like that, right? It's anger, thought, action, but with no time in between, right? So because I have learned how to do these things, they happen so quickly. Because yes, of course, there are times when I want to say some things that I shouldn't say. But in the moment, as I'm dropping back into my body, because it does take me back to childhood, because it's been happening since childhood, right? When I can drop back into my body, and then I can say, is whatever I'm thinking about saying going to benefit me?
Yeah, and let me take it a step further, because, one of the premises that this podcast is built on is that there's two choices in any situation. We could choose love or we could choose fear, i.e. the ego. And in any moment when you get ready to have a response, I think for me, that's been the biggest part of work. Because I joke about going up and going off, but I don't just run around going off on people. Right. And part of it is because in that moment you have to choose. I have to choose a loving decision, not because I'm dealing with a person who warrants it, but because if that is my belief system and that's what I'm striving to do, is be a reflection, a conduit of love in this world. Even when somebody could get the business, I might refrain from it just because I'm making a choice. You know what I mean? Right. In the moment where I could. See, you have given me reason to where I could let you have it right now. But I'm not, because that's what I'm choosing. But I think a part of it has been being able to better regulate my emotions. Or even when I do have a moment, if I do or say something, to be able to quickly come back and identify it as what it is. Like, I shouldn't have said that to you. Like, and, be able to come back and almost like clean it up with love, because I feel like as long as we're human, our egos are going to have those moments where they spew. Right. And that's usually all it is. When we think about, all of these conversations about our emotions running amok, it's usually always a situation where our egos are telling us, go. Right. Like it's go time. Right. And so if we talked about the emotion of anger, for instance, being a signal, maybe that we've had a boundary breached. But I was just talking to a friend this morning about a situation with like jealousy or envy. And whenever you feel that, for instance, the lady in the book says, well, perhaps envy or jealousy is a signal to you that something you're seeing is an indication of something you desire for yourself. But if you don't check that, then now you think, well, I want to go over there. Oh, she thinks she cute. She thinks she does. No, really what it is you dusty today. And that person took time to dust themselves off, and now you feeling some kind of way because you didn't. Right. And you know what I'm saying? So like whatever the emotion is, I think if we could start to listen to them as messages, like, hold on, what's going on here? Then it helps us to be able to propel our lives forward in a positive way. Okay, so let's get to the second one. So we talk about emotional awareness, being able to recognize and name our own emotions, dropping into our body, saying, hold on, right now I am really feeling whatever that is. Naming
Get you an emotion wheel.
Baby, Amari I should have bought her emotion wheel.
I love it. I use it with my clients.
Baby, because we get
folks,
to it.
Teenagers, we all use it because there are more emotions than happy, sad, mad, whatever.
And it'll drop you down because Amaria started with sad. Right. Like one time, I think the last time we used it, she started with sad and ended with lonely because she hadn't played with no friends and she owned a child.
It's degrees to this.
It's levels. Yes. But being able to put your finger on it, she'll tell you so fast, baby, I'm feeling frustrated. I need a moment to myself. And I'm like, girl, go on in there.
Because rage and frustration are two different emotions, but they both stem from anger.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, we got emotionally aware. And if we can do a better job of even stopping, because now we've acknowledged that for a lot of us growing up in whatever families, we did not even have an opportunity to start there.
Oh, definitely not.
We didn't see anybody sit and talk about how they were feeling. Right. And that's the thing with all this gentle parenting a lot of us are trying to do. Like, and not only how she's feeling, but how I'm feeling. Because sometimes she makes me feel frustrated. Mom's feeling very frustrated right now because you're not following instructions. I'm going to take a minute to myself and then try to regulate my own emotions before I go up on her. So I get this spoon and start popping. So anyway, okay, the second one is empathy. Now this is the one I have been historically blocked on, and I have been getting better. Empathy has to do with understanding and being sensitive to the emotions of others. So let me say this, because I told Val this the other day. I feel like I have been a person that was empathetic towards people's plights. Like if you're a person that's dealing with a disease or dealing with a hard time, dealing with social injustices, I can empathize with that. But empathizing with people's emotions is something that, Lord, I've done a lot of work. It's been better. But that was because it's like, what you mean? You feel some kind of way, so you like get up. We got stuff to do. Like especially when I was like in leadership positions.
Yeah.
Well, I feel it. Okay, thanks for sharing. But now we got to come on, go. Like we still got stuff to do. It don't matter how you feeling.
Trauma responses, right?
Trauma response. Because I wasn't offered how you feeling. You need a mental health today to sit down and think about your feelings and get in your body. I wasn't offered that. Hey, you better figure it out. Because nobody in this world is coming to save you. You got to figure it out for yourself. So help us with becoming more empathetic. How do we, I guess, find a balance between having empathy for people, like understanding and being sensitive to their emotions, and then at the same time maintaining some boundaries that don't allow people to spew on. I mean, what's the line? I want to be empathetic, but also who you talking to?
Right. Well, and it also depends on the situation, right? Depends on the situation, and it depends on people. Knowing people, you understand if you have someone who is consistently in a victim mode. Right? For those people, in the beginning, you're just like, oh man, that sucks. And if I was, you put yourself there and you feel the empathy for them. And then as you continue to talk to the people, if they're coming back with the same thing over and over and over and over and over, well, then it kind of switches. And now my empathy is starting to leave because you're draining my energy.
Yeah.
Right. So then that's when the boundaries come into play. And so maybe it's just more of, if you know that this person is calling you or every time you see them, it's going to be, they're just dropping all their stuff on you. Right. You set the boundary and you let them know, like, you know what, I hear you. And I really do want to be there to support you and be there for you in this time of need. But right now, I just don't have the capacity. Can we talk about this later?
I don't have the capacity. And I think a part of that for us is sometimes asking
the other person.
Asking the person before you dump on them, like, hey, do you have the capacity? Or like, do you have time for, or do you, I need to vent? Or like, do you have, and because I think what happens after a while is, there are people that are calling you to dump every time. And I'm not going to tell them I don't have the capacity. I'm not going to answer the phone if I don't have the capacity. Because I already know. It's a 70% chance that's what you're calling for. And if any given moment I don't have it, I'm not going to answer the phone. And I'll call you back when I have the capacity for that, because I already know that's what and that's a boundary to protect my own emotional well-being. But a lot of times I think we feel like these phones make us feel like somebody calls or somebody dings or somebody whatever. So I'll be keeping it do not disturb a lot more often these days, because like it's never ending between social media and phone calls and like you could just be constantly in emotional up and down space, just based on whatever is coming at you off your phone.
So that would be for people that we have to set the boundaries, and we can be empathetic, and then it begins to be too much. It becomes overwhelming, right? But for people who are actually trying to do the work, right? In the empathy, I feel like asking them, how can I support you in this? Right? Understanding what they need from you. Because sometimes we don't know what to say to people when they're going through something. And we try to figure it out. We try to find the thing.
Offer advice.
Right. And sometimes they don't want the advice.
Sometimes I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. And sometimes people just want you to sit with them. Or can you just listen to me?
Val, you're really good about that. Because I be calling with the shit sometimes. Ooh, sister, what is it? What happened? What's going on? And you need to be able to, I think another part of empathy is like you need to be able to not have judgment in that space. Right. A safe space where judgment
resides there.
Where grace is, because we all just trying to figure it out. That's what I say in the pilot episode. We're all trying, and if at some point you felt like for me, I was less empathetic because I used to feel like, well, life is very simple.
It's black and it's white.
You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. There's a checklist. You do these things, and then you have success. You want to be happy, do these things. It's very simple. Especially when I was very deeply entrenched in institutionalized religion. Right. Like it needs, God said do this, this, and this, and this. And if you do all that, But the truth is it's very nuanced, and God gives us free will, and God gives grace, and there's so much nuance, that I feel like in that accepting that nobody has the answers,
right?
And no matter the wisest people you look to and you think, oh, they got it all figured out, they don't.
Right.
And when they go home, they shit stink too. And so I think having that understanding made me feel like, hey, everybody's doing the best they can.
Right.
And it helps you to become more empathetic and compassionate, because it's like, oh, girl, what is it? What's going on? What you need? How can I help? Because we all trying to figure it out.
No, help me, help you. I don't know. Right. And I feel like that is a big thing with empathy. You know, being able to also see yourself as a reflection of the person. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because if they're going through something you've never been through before, empathy is so important, because I think sometimes people just, we function off of theories. We think, oh, well, if I was a mom, I would do this. So if I was a wife, I would do that. Or, oh, yeah, you should do this or that. And it's like, until you walk in somebody's shoes, baby.
You do not know.
You just don't even know.
Right. So. And it's like, when I have my sessions with my clients, one of the things that I tell them before we ever start our first session, when we do our consults, if you cannot show up as your authentic self, because I'm going to show up as my authentic self, and in order for us to do the work, you have to be in an authentic place for us to get there, then I'm probably not the therapist for you, right? But every time they be like, nah, I want to be.
What would make a person not be authentic if they coming into therapy and they finna pay somebody to do some work? Why would you not be authentic?
Well, we lie to ourselves. Right. And if it's my first time coming to therapy and I'm coming because I want you to fix this other thing, right? Not really me, but like this other thing. And then that's the other thing. Like, I don't fix anybody.
Right.
I help walk you through the options and the things. We talk it out. We process it. We understand is this your inner child speaking? Is this, who is this that's talking? Because we have different parts of ourselves, right? Yeah. We have a protector in there. We have the inner child. We have the one who was traumatized. We have all of these different parts. And so I help them see how all these parts come together and who's functioning in what moment, right? And how do you make the best decision for your life in order to be thriving and then moving towards living your best life?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so the third component of emotional literacy, we cover emotional awareness. That's recognizing and naming your emotions. That's empathy, understanding and being sensitive to the emotions of others. Because you can't have high emotional literacy and then be totally oblivious of other people's emotions. And I think a part of that too that we didn't touch on is sometimes like the nonverbal picking up of people's emotional responses.
Right.
Because it's nothing worse than a person that cannot pick up on how they are making you feel emotionally in a moment with their actions or their words. Like, I don't know. And then third is emotional expression. Right. So the ability to express emotions appropriately in various situations. I thought that 3 and 4 were together, right? Expressing them and regulating them, but they are not. Your ability to express it appropriately, whatever you have decided you're feeling, is the next part that's kind of big. And so I think the appropriately part is what's been a big part for me, because it's like I can express what I'm feeling and I'm gonna let you know. Like if I was to drop dead right now, anybody that's in my life that I have a relationship with, they should be able to express how I felt about them, because I am a communicator. And so I don't ever want to be walking around like, I hear people say like, for 10 years, I had this on my chest against this person. I'll be like, 10 years?
Right.
I would not be able to sleep tonight. I'd be in the bed rolling around just thinking about, and another thing. Like,
let me play it over again.
And I'd be going in my head on a loop. Like when something is on me, it's like it's in my spirit, especially with people that I consider myself close to. It's like, hey, you got a second to talk?
Right.
I didn't like how you handled that right there. That made me feel like da-da-da-da-da. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. Don't do me like that. Don't handle me like that. You handle me too rough. I don't like that. And being able to express what's going on, I feel like, one, helps me to remain in authentic relationship with the people that I have, because I don't have a lot of close circle people. it allows the door to stay open. And me and you have, even recently, like,
hey, let me tell you something.
I got something to say.
I got something to say.
And I think being able to keep that open, the ability to express is one thing, but I guess it's the appropriateness for different situations. That's the tricky part for some people.
Yes. We have some extremes, right? And we'll start on one end. One end extreme is I'm going to hold it all in. I'm not going to communicate anything verbally, right? Yeah. It's all going to be nonverbal or passive aggressively, right? Communicating. That's not healthy communication.
That's people that just go silent and be like, I just... Okay.
Yeah. Or if I see you and you be like, hey, how you doing? You're like, good.
Yeah, just kind of go. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then on the opposite end, we have the people who say things like, I'm just an honest person.
Yeah, they're just going to explode.
And so they are in there telling you, they say it rudely, right? Because I'm just telling the truth. Well, the truth doesn't always have to be rude. I don't think the truth ever has to be rude.
No, it don't.
Right? But there are people who feel like because it's the truth, I'm going to say it in a way that cuts you. Right?
I can say it how I want to because this is the truth.
Right.
Like a knife.
Just like a simple example, if somebody came out, like let's say you came out and you had something on that I didn't, like, or it was doing something and, and I'm just like, why you got that on? That's, that don't fit you. That's ugly. What? That don't fit you at all. Right. Yeah. Well, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Your honesty does not have to be rude, right? Because there's another way to say that. Be like, okay, so tell me about your choice today, and what you were wearing, like, you know, what mind frame were you in? And because now we can have a discussion about what got you there. Because just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you don't like it, right? And if you like it, then it don't matter what I think.
But I'm always confused about, though, when it comes to communicating, like, in terms of people's emotions. And especially relationally, when I think about, like, I've just always been this way. So I guess I would like to know, like, so when we talk about both extremes, either the person that just spews on people or the person that bottles it up and they just don't tell anybody nothing. I feel like, again, we're talking about those diseases that come inside your body, not being able to express, and because emotions have an impact on our bodies. And I can literally feel let's say me and you have something happen and I haven't communicated, because the first part to me, again, is becoming aware. Right. And that's another thing I've gotten better at, is stepping back from a situation to process it. What just happened? How am I feeling about that? Why? Where's this coming from? There's always usually about 5 layers underneath it that hadn't been discussed or whatever. And then, because then it wasn't just this. The last time she did that. And then that's what's making me feel like this about this, because those last 2 times she did that and that. Okay, so this is a pattern. And it's making me feel like she don't care. Or it's making me feel like I'm not a priority, or like whatever the thing is. And then, like, after taking that step back to process it, I don't understand what would keep people that want to be in relationship and community together from leveraging opportunities to be authentic about what, even at the expense of the relationship. I'm going to say this. I'm going to tell you. Even if it means after I tell you, you're going to be like, well, if that's how you feel, I don't want to be a friend no more. I'm going to lay down tonight and go to sleep. I'm going to be sad because we ain't friends no more. But I am not going to be tormented by the fact that I was not authentic with you if I want to cultivate authentic friendship and relationship.
Well, it's levels to that, right? Because we're only privy to what people allow us into in their life. Right. Okay. So let's say we take the extreme of the person who, I'm just being honest. Right. We don't know what their childhood looked like. Right. We don't know how they learned to express their emotions. And if they did not learn to express them in a healthy way, they're going to not express them in a healthy way, right? Until they know better, or until they become aware, because sometimes you can know better and still not do better. Right. So you have to be willing to want to do better. That takes work. But also, if we go back to our brain and the way that it functions, we have this thing called neuroplasticity, right? Basically, what that means is there are pathways in our brain that have been paved,
Yeah.
And so if it is my first instinct to go off, that's what I'm going to do, because that's the neuroplasticity in my brain. That's the pathway that has been set, right?
Yeah.
I have to start creating new pathways.
But, okay, so to that point, it made me think this. I know people, I know people in big ages, sis. This is what I'm saying. Y'all know people in big ages where it's like the way that you handle these things has not worked for you over and over, relationship and relationship, friend after friend. And you the common denominator, and how you handle people, and that don't work, and that doesn't allow you to maintain relationships well and cultivate them and have a beautiful, joy-filled life of love. And you keep on doing it. That's the thing for me. Like, I literally just had a conversation with a friend who was telling me about some women on a girls trip having a fist fight. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm almost 40 years of age. I used to fist fight when I was a child. Who is fist fighting when they're 40 years old? Like, I cannot even imagine we being on a trip. Anything. I don't care. I could be falling down drunk. I might cuss at you because I'm a cussing drunk. You know, we don't.
Yes, I know.
We grown now. We don't just be getting falling down drunk. Right. But I'm just saying the worst case scenario I could think of. Like, I cannot imagine being in a situation where I could lose my emotional intelligence to the point where I would fist fight somebody that I love. And so I'm just like, at what point? Because you're saying it takes us forging new paths in our brain. Like, at what point can we help somebody today? Can you help? Because I can't help them. Can you help somebody watching today that may need a wake-up call? Because I keep thinking, like, well, with age, surely people would see, like, oh, okay, the way I handled that relationship, learned a lesson there. I better figure out. And for me, it's reading. I read, I podcast. In addition to, like, my personal, I pray and stuff like that. But self-reflection to the point where I am expecting myself to grow as a person.
Right.
From year to year, from friendship to friendship, relationship to relationship, like whatever. What's the lesson in this thing, and how do I become a better person? How can you help? I don't know. 40-year-olds fist fighting on a girls trip.
Here's the thing: I can't help anybody who doesn't want to be helped. Right.
That's the first part.
And because if that was my culture, right, I was born into that culture. I was cultivated into that culture. It becomes my norm. I see nothing wrong with it because it's how I'm living.
That we can fight and be friends again.
Right. Because that's the norm. Right. So first you have to realize that shouldn't be the norm. That's probably some toxic traits that have been passed down. Right. That looks like culture now.
It does look like culture.
And so who are you to tell me to come outside of my culture? Right. So they have to be in a place where they're ready to make the changes. And then sometimes a person might be ready to make the changes, but the people around them, right, are not in that place. And so now I'm going to put the mask on because I want to be different and I don't know how to be different because all the people in my life and in my circle are like this.
Yeah.
How do I stand alone? I don't know how to do that. So then I'll just stay in this comfortable place because I don't know what's on the other side of that.
Yeah, and having a fist fight.
Right.
Well, that's tricky. So, okay, so, but for other people that are here and wanting to grow and change, that emotional expression has to do with us being able to appropriately communicate things in various settings. And so I think it's also important, before we go to the last one, to consider that that's even true at work. Like, I just saw somebody say the other day, like they were giving a scenario of somebody being at work and their boss telling them, I know it's 5, you're supposed to be getting up, but I need you to stay back and do a thing. And like feeling
Absolutely
that
not.
anger. Is it no?
No.
But feeling that anger, but then like putting it down and not like dealing with it or whatever. And so my thing is, like, whatever the situation and circumstance, I feel like there's always a way to figure out what's appropriate here. And that it still doesn't take away from the fact that, like, your emotions and your feelings are still valid. Whether it's with a boss, whether it's with a parent, whether it's with it's that your emotion in that moment is trying to tell you something. Because otherwise, we could be sitting here and have the same experience. Let's say somebody walks in and says something. And the way that it impacts me, it could not land on me. And you've had those situations. All of us have.
Right.
Where you might have experienced something together with somebody, and then somebody be like, well, that really pissed me off the way that person did it. And you be like, what happened? Because we was both sitting here together. Well, the way she said that, did you see how she looked at me? And I didn't see a thing.
Right.
Nothing resonated with me in my experience, but something inside of you was triggered based on whatever just happened.
Right.
And so I'm always just trying to think through, it doesn't matter what or where you are or with whom. It is, you are worthy of expressing how you feel.
Right.
Granted, take some time to process it, because sometimes you might just be in a moment, or it might be some PMS
that's
popping
why I
or
always
something.
tell my clients, your feelings are always valid, but are they always true?
That's it. What's the difference?
So how I feel right now, that's valid because I feel it.
Because I'm mad.
Because I'm mad,
Okay.
right? So, but my feelings might not always be true. So, for example, this is a good one. You have a child, right? Let's say your child is older, and you know how parents be like, call me when you get home.
Right.
Right? And the child don't call when they get home. So now I'm feeling away as a parent.
Okay.
I'm feeling probably angry at first, right? Because it's, you're supposed to call me. They ain't even called me. Okay, that's valid, right?
Okay.
But then I go into something else because you still haven't called, right? So now I'm going into something like, something happened. Oh, Lord, is it? Right? It's a feeling.
Panic.
I'm panicking. That's the feeling. I'm panicking
Delusion.
because you have not called me. And I don't
Anxiety.
understand. Did something happen? Is it a car wreck? What has happened? Right?
Okay.
And then they call you and be like, oh, I forgot to call you. You said call. I forgot. Right? And then the parent goes off in that moment because the panic. Right? So the panic was a valid emotion, but it wasn't true.
Right. You made it up in your head. Do you know, I saw something one time, this is going to be to your point, that said, in our brain doesn't know if we're concocting something or if it's actually true when we're responding to it. And so I like to think about, when you sit around and think about things, this is how anxiety works. Did you see Inside Out 2?
I have not yet.
Okay, I just watched Inside Out 2 with Amari.
And this anxiety, yes.
And Amari's my 5-year-old. Okay. So I'm watching it, and from her perspective, it's a little animated movie. And from my perspective, I'm like, oh my God, this is so deep.
Right.
Because anxiety is running amok with this girl. She just turned 13. She's a teenager now. So all the old emotions that were a lot simpler start to get replaced by these very complicated emotions. And at the helm of that is anxiety. And as they're talking, if y'all haven't seen Inside Out 2, please watch it. As a grown up, we're talking about emotions, girl. Because anxiety started running amok with her, and she starts trying to plan for everything and consider every scenario. Well, if this happens, then that happens, and so I better do this. Well, if they say this, and I'm gonna say that, and da da da. And I'm listening to anxiety talk and respond through the girl's body, and I'm like, shit, I've been functioning with some high. I really believe high functioning anxiety has lived in my body for a long time. But it just, it's what you have to do. Like, you have to try to, now, what 5 possible scenarios could happen right here? And how do we prepare? And for survival mode, I feel like for people that had to survive and have been in survival mode, that anxiety is living in your body and in your mind, and you don't even process it as that.
Well, let me tell you why. Because remember at the beginning when I talked about the brain and where the emotions live in the back, right? They live in the amygdala. Anxiety lives there. So if my amygdala is like, right? My reasoning is shut off.
It is.
It's shut off. And
it keeps you from living in the
drop
present
into
moment.
your body. Yes.
You cannot live in the present moment and have anxiety running amok with you.
Right.
It just doesn't have, so you miss the opportunities to delight, to find joy, to find pleasure and gratitude in the day-to-day moments because your mind is seven. And now it's helpful in some regards to have some anxiety about big things, I think. To think about, hey, like, oh, okay, like, have I prepared for a thing?
Right.
But when that goes overboard, like what has been the trajectory of my life as a recovering type A overachiever, it puts you in a state where you cannot move forward until you have like pre-planned, prepared for, like It's crazy.
Yeah, and sometimes people's anxiety will keep them stuck because I'm so far, we call it future tripping, right? I'm so far in the future, I got to do this thing. I have to have this done by this time. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do that. I can't be in the present to do the things that I need to do in order to get there.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm already there, and so I can't do the things to help me get there. So then it never gets done. And then it's like, man, I wanted to have this done by this time, but I can't get it done. I haven't been able to get it done. It's because you can't live in the present moment to actually do the things that need to get done in order to get to where the goal is.
Yeah. And sometimes that manifests for me as like there's so many things on my checklist today that I need to do that I would just like to lay here for another hour. And that hour may have been the hour I could have done at least 2 of the things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you are a person who makes a checklist, I encourage checklist, right? Don't put too many things
I feel
on
like something's about to come that I don't need to hear.
If you are,
walk
nothing's wrong with checklists. Love checklists. I make them myself. But if you are a person who's going to put 100 things on your checklist today, and you can only get 15 of them done, and you looking at the rest of them like, oh my God, my day has gone to hell because I haven't been able to get the stuff done. Don't put 100 things on your checklist.
Yeah, because needless to say, sometimes you could have, so I try to focus on a big 3. My business coach that I never met, Jenna Kutcher, has a podcast called The Gold Digger. And one of the things she said one time to help my little anxious brain so much, she said, for each day, stick to your big 3. What are the big 3 things that I can focus on doing for today? And that has helped me because what I find is a lot of times for one thing on my checklist, it might have 3-4 steps to get the one thing done. Go here, send this email, then follow up there to check off the one big thing. And so I would say I have literally been able to feel as I have been doing this work that as I get less anxious, my body responds. I hold that anxiety in my neck and in my shoulders a lot. And so I'm able to tell, like, when I am not functioning from that place, I am less tense all over my body. And it is, again, mindfulness practices help. Starting the day with my yoga and meditation. When I do my prayer, I call my yoga prayer in motion. Like, these are things that help bring me back and regulate my emotions. Because I saw a quote that said, and this is going to be in the book, y'all. This was a good quote. It said, the number one way to dysregulate your system, your nervous system, is a human. And the number one way to regulate your nervous system is a human, right? It's like, depending on what kind of people you're dealing with, what kind of stimuli are around you, it could completely bring you down and have you feeling like zen and like everything is everything. Or it could do the opposite and have you feeling anxious and out of sorts and like discombobulated. Right. And so I say that to say that I think how we lean into our emotional regulation is a big part of it because we have the right and the ability to control a lot of the pieces. Not everything. Right. But what we can control for can help.
And what we can't, surrender it.
Ooh, child.
That's a part of emotional intelligence.
The surrender.
Emotional literacy is understanding when to surrender something. Ooh. Because I know we've had conversations before. You'd be like, how are you just not bad about that? Or how are you not? Hey, it's out of my control.
I punched him in the face right now. No, it's
if I can't control it, if it's not in my control, I have to release it. Because if I don't, it's going to take me to a place that I don't want to go back to, right?
Okay, so we going to the next point now because it sounds like we talked about expressing our emotions, but now we get into emotional regulation is number 4. And emotional regulation has to do with managing and responding to emotions in healthy and constructive ways. And that surrender that you're talking about, I think it's such a spiritual concept because in society, we're taught to, fight, grind, hustle, go get it, claw, like go get it, like stay up. That's what we value. But also that's a function of the ego. A lot of times it's a function of scarcity mindset that we feel like if we don't claw and grab and clench. Right. And a part of my surrender is a physical manifestation of opening my hands. And I like to think about it like the full surrender is my hands open. Right. And there's still times in life practicing the fine art of surrender that I find myself clenching where there may be a circumstance or something happens and I want to clench or hold on to something that I need to surrender or have surrendered or whatever. And then I have to be reminded as my emotions get dysregulated and I start to feel anxious and all these things. Oh, wait, hold on. You're grasping again.
Right.
Open up your hands. And so I have to literally open up my hands, breathe through, and let shit outside of my control go. But for the person dealing with high functioning anxiety, that surrender feels like
Defeat,
loss,
failure,
sorry, like I quit. It feels like but it's so much power in surrender. And so much faith required, I think, to really get to the point where you're like, okay, I've done all I can in circumstances. And now I'm going to open up my hands and I'm going to say, okay, like I'm going to release that to the universe.
Right.
And like what's for me is mine. And like in whatever circumstance, listening to because the emotions, I feel like your body is trying to tell you. You can feel your body's trying to tell you, no, stop. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't go there. Don't call that person. Stop. Put it down. No. Nah.
Well, because it's important to know that the things are not separate. My body, my mind, my spirit, they are all connected. They are all one. My physical health and my mental health, they all depend on each other.
And when I'm clenching, I might not be able to even sleep well. You know what I'm saying? Like when you have all these things going on, when you're saying the connectedness, it's like you got an emotional thing going and now it's turned to a physical thing because we know not getting enough sleep isn't good for your health. And it's going to peak your cortisol because you're stressing. And when my cortisol is high, then that hormonal response means I'm gaining weight now. When I start gaining weight, then I look at myself and I say, oh, you gaining weight? Let's go get a muffin. And so like all of these things are interconnected.
Yeah. And when you said, you got to listen to your emotions and see what it is that they need. And you know that your body is full of cortisol. Your body and those emotions are telling you need to release the cortisol, right? How do we do that? Well, God is so amazing. He gives us mechanisms within our body to do that. And one of those is crying.
Oh,
because in our tears, in the physical tear that leaves your eyeball, there's cortisol. It's your body's way of saying, I'm getting some of this excess out.
That's really good because sometimes you need a good cry.
Sometimes you need
especially
a good
when
cry.
it's and some people, especially men, I feel like sometimes feel like they can't cry. They need to suck it up and hold it in. And I think the more I've been doing work on getting more emotionally literate, the more I do cry when I have situations, and not just like sad stuff, but like even sometimes good stuff where I'm more open to just feeling because I'm in my body, and I can just like have a good cry about something, and then even a laugh about the cry sometimes because it's just you know it's just necessary,
right?
So okay, the last thing I want to discuss because we have to wrap is I want to make sure we talk about coping. I think it's important for us to touch on. There are so many unhealthy ways to cope with our emotions. And so what we see a lot of times is people self-medicating, whether that's with drugs or with alcohol or so self-medicating is part of it, but also like behaviors that are self-destructive. All of these ways people try to cope as opposed to sitting and dealing with the actual expansion of their emotional literacy and how do I deal with this and how do I manage it? So the last part about the management, I wanted you to share some ways that people can work on better coping with and managing the emotions. And I'm going to say the first one that has been working for me, and then I'm going to let you close it out. A part of the work that I've been doing is when you feel emotions, you don't have to do something with them. Yeah. Being able to sit with my emotions. Even to determine, is this something I need to communicate to someone or not? Because I'm an over communicator by nature. And so that has been the biggest part to me is to sit with my emotions and not do something about them. Because where I'm from, we get active. You know what I'm saying? Especially with those negative emotions. Somebody, what you, we need to do something with the emotion. Take off on somebody. And so for me, it's been a practice of whether it's a good emotion, a negative, a positive or a negative emotion, to just be able to sit with it and let it pass through my body. Usually after a certain amount of time, you will notice if you haven't done something detrimental already, like cuss somebody out or knocked over something, that you might actually feel like, I'm good.
Right. Riding the wave.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because the emotion gives us an urge to do something.
Yeah.
And it's hard to fight the urge to do
Right.
something, right? So one of the things I would say is ride the wave. There are ways in which you can ride the wave without just sitting there, right?
Right.
Peppermint oil helps.
Yes. I put that in my diffuser in the house.
Grounding helps. And one that you can do if you're in a place where you can't escape, right? It's like, oh, what are 5 things I can touch? What are 4 things I can see? So I'm using my senses to get involved, right?
Right.
What are some things I can smell? What can I hear? Is there anything? Do I have gum that I can taste? So that's something that can help you in the moment, with those emotions. But also body scanning is a good coping skill, because that also helps you to drop back into your body, figure out what is the emotion trying to tell me, and then what is the hole or the void that needs to be filled there.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
So with body scanning, basically you just close your eyes and you scan your body from head to toe or toe to head, right? And you go each part of the body. I do it every morning when I wake up. First thing thank you, Jesus, I'm here, right? But then I'm like, how does my body feel? Let me start at my toes. Let me go to my feet, my ankles. What do my calves feel like? What do my thighs feel like? My stomach, like I'm scanning. Does my head hurt? I got a toothache?
Right.
All of the things, because that helps you to understand what emotion you're feeling, right? And then that brings me to the next thing is sometimes our primary emotion and our secondary emotion can interchange so fast I don't know which is which.
Okay.
Right? Most of the time we go to anger. Right? A lot of people feel angry, but that wasn't the primary emotion. That was the secondary emotion. I might have felt hurt
or rejection,
or disappointed, or I might have felt these things. And in that moment,
then
because I wasn't vulnerable enough to express that to you, it turned to anger. Right?
Yeah.
So then understanding what is the primary emotion that I'm feeling.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. And so with those things, I'm going to say very good coping is get you a therapist. I
was just about to say, are you taking new clients right now for anybody that may want to send an inquiry?
Yes, I'm taking new clients.
Okay. I'm going to drop
but
your
even
link there.
Not me. The ways that you can find a therapist, Psychology Today, Therapy for Black Girls.
Yes.
Taraji P. Henson has a great website. It's the Boris... It's her daddy's initials.
Yeah, just Google it.
Yes. And it has a lot of resources. So being able to find, because if you don't have good, healthy coping skills, you're not finna just come up with good, healthy coping skills, right? You're going to need somebody to help you, guide you through the practice of actually implementing the coping skills. Because in the beginning, it's going to be like, these not working, right? Because it takes about 21 days for our brains to create a new habit.
Right.
And so you have to give them time to work.
And because as you're going through different circumstances, you're navigating things that you've never navigated before in life. It's not like you're going back and learning the same lessons over and over. A lot of times you got a new circumstance, and now you have to apply, what you've learned in a new way. You have to learn how to communicate with new people. Life be lifing.
Life be lifing.
So yes, if you don't have a therapist, I highly recommend you get one and do that work around trying to identify where you can grow, because the quality of your relationships, I believe, depends on you being able to be emotionally intelligent enough. So thank you so much for coming today.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I'm going to link down there in the show notes if you want to follow Val, or you can follow her or contact if you would. And I'm going to link the other things that you mentioned too if people are looking for therapists.
Okay.
But until next time, namaste, y'all, and thank y'all for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Namaste, y'all. If you haven't already, be sure that you follow us wherever you get your social media fixes. And also make sure you check out our upcoming community events, because we want to connect with you, not just in the virtual space, but in person. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Namaste, y'all.